Good morning, everyone. My name is Shad Khan, and some people I don't know, okay? So I've got to make sure we're proper and I'm introduced. And I've been looking forward to this day for a long time. I'm excited, optimistic, feel great, and yes, I want to go first. So before I begin, our guests, news media here, thanks for coming. And for everyone online, I'm grateful that you're joining us this morning. The challenges we experienced on the field and in our lives, 2020, we fully understand that, and I don't want to suggest that 2021 is automatically everything's going to be okay. But we are making excellent progress, the fight against COVID-19. And with progress comes energy, hope, and in 2021, that extends to the Jaguars and our hometown of Jacksonville, Florida. We are at the doorstep of a new era of football. I hope you agree. This doesn't look like, thank you. This just doesn't feel like another changing of the guard. This indeed is a new era. Urban, proven winner, so is Trent. Our first round draft choices, Trevor, Travis, they're proven winners. Set the stage for the Jaguars moving forward. And the sense of anticipation for the Jaguars isn't just limited to Duval. We are of global interest. We will be a destination for the fans and news media throughout the world. And that's just for the training camp. So, I get that, and I know really doesn't matter if we don't win, but we can't start winning until we start playing the games. So looking forward to September, obviously. But until then, I'm proud of the work being put in by Urban, Trent, our players, and I'm really, really happy for the fans. I'm thankful to each and every one of our fans for sticking with us, especially through the difficult season, and I'm confident of the rewards ahead. And I'm thrilled for our city and the community. Put the Jaguars aside for the moment and consider. We have serious momentum here in Jacksonville and in particularly downtown. The Doro Apartments, Dun & Bradstreet, the new FIS headquarters, and the rehab of historical buildings throughout downtown is truly inspiring. There's much more, and when you add the promising future of the Jaguars to all that's happening, it certainly makes me happy and makes me really proud. But one thing about momentum, though, is you can't bank it, and you can lose it. And we don't want to do either. We have the momentum, and we're going to build upon it. So with that, and to tell you more about our plan and to build on this generational momentum that we enjoy today, here is President of the Jaguars, Mark Lamping.
Well, thank you very much. Since the inception of the Jaguars back in the mid-'90s, part of this franchise's DNA has been to be very involved in the community. That has not changed over the 25-plus years of the Jaguars here. And over the course of the past several months, we've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of business leaders, a lot of community leaders, elected officials. And when we talked about our vision for downtown, we always also focused on the responsibility that the organization and Shad feel that we have to the community as well. And when we would talk about it, a lot of people would say, that's awesome. And many times they'd say, I wasn't really aware of the depth of your involvement in the community. It probably would serve your interest a little bit more if you would let people know more about what you're doing. That's not Shad's style, as you know. And at the risk of pissing off my boss, I'm going to spend just a couple minutes being responsive to the requests that we've received, and really a particular focus on those type of community investments that we're making that are involving downtown entities and initiatives. And we're going to be talking a lot about downtown today, so I thought I would just highlight a few of the recent commitments thanks to Shad and his family. Joined with other companies here in Jacksonville to help make Lift Every Voice and Sing Park a possibility. Really proud to partner with Lift Jacks to help our neighbors to the north in the out east neighborhood. Shad and his family made a very sizable lead pledge to help bring a world-class Museum of Science and History to the North Bank. And you're going to hear a little bit more about something today that involves a significant 20-year commitment to adopt Met Park. So let's begin with the shipyards. As many of you know, that was quite a bustling industrial area for many, many years. But unfortunately, for too many decades, it's now a great region of opportunity. And we have a tremendous amount of undeveloped property on the north bank of one of this country's most historic rivers. And we're going to start our conversation today with the shipyards. The first thing I'd like to do is to sort of focus your attention. Let's start at the bottom of this chart, that large rectangle that goes from west to east, that's in yellow. For the purposes of this presentation, we'll call it the Downtown Riverfront Development Zone. And then you'll see a teal rectangle that goes north and south from the banks of the St. Johns River up to the Arlington Expressway. We're going to be talking a lot today about the confluence of those two rectangles. But first, I want to make sure that everyone understands the development that we're talking about does not infringe on the existing Met Park property. And as you look at this, there is a significant amount of additional downtown riverfront parcels that are up for others to decide what should happen to those parcels. Plenty of room for other development if that's the direction it should go. Plenty of room for parks if that's the direction it should go. And as I said, that's for others to decide, not the Jacksonville Jaguars. Let me start with Met Park. As I mentioned, our project does not include any development on the current site of Met Park. A lot of people were confused about that, so I'm taking the opportunity to hopefully dispel any rumors. But also as we've had a chance to spend a lot of time in Met Park and observe its current condition, and the fact it's right next door to where the Jaguars are headquartered. We are going to adopt Met Park through the City of Jacksonville's private park adoption program. We're committed to providing $200,000 a year to the City of Jacksonville to help keep Met Park clean, safe, and well-maintained. In addition to that, we're fully supportive of the Jesse Ball DuPont Fund and the City of Jacksonville's efforts to activate Met Park, but also the entire riverfront area, throughout the downtown corridor. So what's our plan? Our plan is really two steps. I'll be talking about both of them today. The first step basically is Shad and Shad's real estate investment entity that's called Iguana Investments. And then the second step is a partnership with Baptist Health, which I'll introduce and then give you the opportunity to hear from the newly named permanent president and CEO of Baptist Health, Michael Mayo. So what's phase one? It begins with a Four Seasons hotel and residences, 176 guest rooms, 25 condominiums, a 5-star spa, multiple restaurants, a ballroom, meeting space, as well as all the other amenities that you would expect from a Four Seasons hotel. One of the interesting things about Four Seasons business model is it's not necessarily driven exclusively by people renting hotel rooms, or in this case, renting hotel rooms or buying condominiums. It's really based on attracting local customers to come and enjoy the Four Seasons. So that's why most Four Seasons you'll see really highly rated restaurants. In this case, you'll see a world-class spa, and you'll see a lot of other areas that are open to the public, whether you're staying at the Four Seasons or whether you're an owner of a residence. The next piece of it is renovating the existing city-owned marina to better serve transient boaters, and I'd underline transient boaters. This is not designed to become a mini mega yacht marina, not at all. In fact, the purpose of this is just what I said a moment ago, to make it easier for locals to be able to come not only and enjoy all the events at the sports complex, but also be able to enjoy the new amenities that will be coming here to Jacksonville through the Four Seasons. And you know, we're really particularly excited about the Four Seasons for a lot of different reasons. Would not be possible if it wasn't for Shad being the owner, because of his relationship with Four Seasons through his ownership of the flagship Four Seasons in Toronto. But the thing we really like about it is it's bringing 2 new products into Jacksonville. We don't have a 5-star luxury hotel in downtown Jacksonville. We don't have a 5-star high-end residential product here in Jacksonville. So this is truly the definition of additive and not competitive to what's currently here in Jacksonville. In addition to renovating the marina, the goal is that this become much more of a full-service marina. The addition of a marina infrastructure building, which will feature a dockmaster's office, a ship store, restrooms open to the public, which also have showers, as well as a food and beverage venue, maybe a raw bar or something like that. And then there's a nice little park and events lawn as part of this as well. There's an office building as part of this. 6 floors, 100,000 square feet of Class A office space, 16,000 square feet of retail, cafe, and amenity space. And I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but it is the intention on 2 of these 5 floors, the 6th floor is amenities at ground level, is that will be occupied by the Jaguars and the other local affiliated companies that are based here in Jacksonville. So 2 of those floors will be the business operations of the Jaguars will be moving out of the stadium into this office building, and then we will be bringing in third-party tenants for the other 60% of the building, targeting specifically companies that would make sense to be located next to the Jaguars, and hopefully attracting companies certainly from outside of the downtown core and hopefully from outside of Jacksonville. So between those projects, the estimated development cost for phase 1 is $321 million. That's the total cost. The private investment piece will be a very significant percentage of that, but where we ultimately end up with that, if we end up with it, would be through the DIA process, which we're currently in the middle of. All of these plans will also go in front of the DDRB. One of the things I did want to mention is that based on either criteria of number of employees that are added or the amount of private investment, this project will be classified as a mega project. And in fact, it will exceed both of those criteria. We'll be creating well in excess of 500 new jobs, and the private investment will be well in excess of 200 million. In fact, we're looking at the creation of 1,500 new jobs. As part of our submissions to DIA, they've received a full disclosure on our marketing and resiliency studies, complete construction cost estimates, all operating projections, as well as developer IRR calculations. And at least as far as our application is concerned, the project as we have presented it demonstrates a positive ROI for the city and its taxpayers. Again, that's our submission. I'm not suggesting that we have reached the conclusion with DIA. I'm sure there's a long way to go, as I see Laurie smiling in the crowd. The second step on this is a partnership with Baptist Health and the Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute. It's a 42,000 square foot orthopedic sports medicine complex featuring advanced medical care for sports injury, recovery and prevention, as well as optimal performance training. There will also be 15,000 square feet of street level retail space, 200 space parking structure, and perhaps even some additional residential. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Michael Mayo to give a little more background from Baptist point of view. Michael.
Thanks, Mark, and thanks you, Shad, for having us here today. Baptist has had a long-standing relationship with the Jaguars in our city. In fact, it goes back all the way to 1993. It's an honor for us to have been and serve as the official healthcare provider for the Jacksonville Jaguars for all of these years. In fact, I see in the audience my friend and colleague, Dr. Kevin Kaplan. Kevin is the head team physician of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Kevin, thank you for being here today. Kevin is a sports medicine specialist and an orthopedic surgeon with Baptist Specialty Group, Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute. From day one, the vision and the community spirit that the Jaguars have brought to us has transformed our city. And today, we are at a most significant tipping point in our history. As the largest and most comprehensive healthcare system in Northeast Florida, Baptist Health is committed to partnering with the Jaguars to create a world-class destination for athletes of all levels. Shad, we are all in this vision and what we can do together to catalyze the growth and optimize the health for our community is our job one. I like to say we should honor the past in order to embrace the future. So I want to take a moment to look back and say thanks to the Jaguars for all they have done for us and for their partnership with the city and with us here today. I also want to stop and take a moment to thank the Baptist Health team and all healthcare providers in our community and frontline workers who spent hard work time caring for individuals in our cities during the pandemic and still even today. I want to look forward now to the future and what we can do together and shape the future of our community. Baptist Health is excited to partner with the Jaguars and with all of you to see what we can do and make this dream a reality. Thanks, Mark, for having us here.
Thank you, Michael. One of the things that became very apparent as we've gone through a lot of public debate over the course of the past 6-7 months was, what's the long-term plan for the stadium? It was asked continually to us, and I'm not sure that we necessarily had that definitive answer at the time, but I, for one, I can tell you I was thrilled that there was interest in trying to deal with something that is really important to the future of downtown and to the future of the Jaguars, as well as the many, many other stakeholders that call this city-owned stadium their home. It's not just the Jaguar Stadium. This is the home for the annual Florida-Georgia game. This is the home of the Tax Slayer Bowl. It's the home of many concerts, other events that come in from outside the country. We'll have a concert this summer and maybe even a second one later this year. So it's a really important topic, and as many of you know that follow the Jaguars, we've been talking about getting ahead of the future of the stadium for a couple years now. So the question for many is, why do we need to start planning now? You know, the Jaguars still have 9 years left on their lease, and why is it important to begin planning now? Well, first, the age of our stadium. But probably more important than the age of the stadium is the byproduct of the age of the stadium, and that's the capital required to keep the current stadium operating at acceptable levels. That continues to increase year by year as the stadium gets older and older. And teams and cities that have found themselves in trouble did not have a long-term stadium plan prior to the expiration of the team's stadium lease. So this is something that obviously you know, we've advocated getting ahead of, and many have shared that view, and that's why just about 18 months ago we kicked off a planning process for what is the future, you know, of the stadium. And it was a partnership between the Jaguars, the city of Jacksonville, Haskell, and ASM Global, who is the city's agent in terms of managing all the city-owned facilities here in Jacksonville. So it's a 5-phase process. It starts with assessing the current building, and then building a model, and then talking to stakeholders, benchmarking best practices, trying to figure out what do our fans want, what does the city want, what do the other stakeholders want in the future of the stadium, how do we respond to conditions that have changed drastically, and they've even changed drastically over the course of the last 18 months, and then get into a process of evaluating some design proposals, and then finally making a decision. One of the great news, and we've completed the first phase, and we've almost completed the second phase. The first phase was the facility condition assessment, and that's completed. In many respects, that was one of the most important parts of this entire study. And what that study did is it assessed all the building systems, the structural systems, the mechanical systems, the electrical systems, the plumbing systems. And what was really key from our point of view is, what is the state of the structural systems of this current stadium? And the good news is, what the Haskell study concluded was that we have the ability to renovate the existing stadium. There's nothing fatal with the structure that would keep us from being able to renovate as opposed to new build. And that's great news. That is really good news. And the reasons it's good news is because it means you can probably protect the lower bowl as part of any renovation. And the estimates that have been provided, that probably saves $500 to $600 million compared to new construction. So significant in terms of what that brings. So why is renovation a preferred path? Well, first, a renovation is significantly less expensive than building a new stadium. New stadium costs continue to escalate, and once we start the stadium renovation process, we'll be able to significantly reduce the capital investments necessary to retain the status quo within the current stadium. If we know that there's a solution on the horizon, we can begin backing off on basically investing in this building just to keep it in its current condition. And what have other cities and teams done since 1995 when the Jaguars entered the National Football League? Well, most are in new stadiums. 5 have had major renovations to their stadiums. 3 moved into new stadiums by vacating their cities in the case of the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Rams. And then there's 2 other teams, the Buffalo Bills and the Jacksonville Jaguars. The interesting thing about the 5 teams that have met major renovations, almost all those teams share one thing in common, and that's all of them have practice facilities separate from the stadium. And that's important as I come back into the renovation plans. So if we're going to begin this process, and if we're going to start it, if we're going to take it off in hopefully what could be reasonable chunks as opposed to trying to do everything at one time, what are those things that we know that the stadium of the future must have? Okay, we don't know what all the details should be, but we do know there's certain things that I think our customers will expect. I think they're going to expect shade on all the seats, particularly on the east side of the stadium, where it's virtually impossible to sit on the east side on a really hot day, particularly in the month of September. Wider concourses are very important, not just in terms of airflow, but just in terms of the future of people's willingness to get into an environment that's shoulder to shoulder, that's certainly going to be less in the future than it has been in the past. Increased space for football operations. I'll elaborate on that in a minute. Better vertical transportation. So many of you that have come to the stadium, you know how hard it can be sometimes to get from the ground level to your appropriate level of seating. And we need to replace the HVAC, plumbing, mechanical, and electrical systems. So if we're going to start this, where do we start? Well, we believe we should start with a football performance center, and I'll explain why. It is absolutely necessary to get this accomplished to allow normal football operations during the stadium renovation period. If we are going to be renovating the stadium and continue to play the games in Jacksonville, which we think is critically important, what'll happen is you'll end the season, then you'll pretty much shut down the stadium, and you'll have about 8 months to get some projects done. And then when you get to the end of those 8 months, you would have either completed those projects or you'll be closing parts of the stadium. And it'll be very difficult to be conducting business on a day-to-day basis inside the stadium, particularly for football operations. It's a very long lead time project. This must be completed before stadium renovations can begin. As I mentioned, by having a place for the football team to be operating outside of the stadium while the stadium is being renovated, it allows for the Jaguar games to be played in Jacksonville during the renovation period. Not all teams do that. There's been cases of both ways. Probably the best example is the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears went through a major renovation of Soldier Field. They moved out of Chicago, played their games in Champaign, Illinois, while the renovation was going on. Other teams have figured out a really effective way to do it. The most recent example we have is in South Florida with the Miami Dolphins. They were able to have the renovation work and still be able to play the games. That's 100% our desire and our commitment to make sure that the games stay here in Jacksonville. It also allows us to address an issue, and in some respects, it's a little bit of a competitive disadvantage which has become more acute in recent years. It allows us to upgrade and expand the space for football operations and training, which currently doesn't meet NFL requirements. Now, if you look to the chart to the right, what that is, that's the size of the space each NFL team has that's devoted to their football operations. And the one at the very top, I'll come back to that in a minute, that's a little bit of an outlier, and I'll explain. And if you look at that dotted line, the vertical line, that's the average of all NFL teams if you take out that top team. Okay, so forget about that top team. It's not driving the average up. If you take out that one outlier, the average NFL team operates in about 121,000 square feet. That's just football operations. It's not business, football. The Jaguars operate in a little under 50,000 square feet right now in the stadium. And that's why if you walk around the stadium, you'll see the weight room. Parts of it is in a hallway. You'll see a weight room. Parts of it is out on the concourse, which surrounds the stadium. You see coaches in closets. The media just saw the relocation of their offices to this side of the stadium, the media workroom. Why is that? Because they needed to add some additional space for player services. And coaches' offices, as I said. And as anyone who's been in this building knows, we deal with a lot of issues, as you do in stadiums that have expansion joints. You get a lot of water that sneaks into the building, and sometimes you have ceiling tiles that fall, sometimes you have rodent infestations, all those things we have here. So this is an issue that 100% has to be addressed. It's just a question of when do we address it. And the other piece of this that we thought was important is it includes a significant investment and a long-term commitment to downtown Jacksonville from the Jaguars as well as the city, and it reinforces the partnership between the city and the team. So when we talk about this football performance center, what are we talking about? Really, Shad has said it best, and Coach Meyer, who you'll hear from later, also can emphasize this. They want this to be a player-centric football factory. No frills, down to basics, very, very efficient building. So from the moment the player walks into the building to the time that they leave in the day, everything is efficient as it possibly can be to hopefully support wins and losses. It's a 125,000 square foot performance center to serve as the new home of Jaguar football operations. This is just football that's moving into that space. It will be built primarily on one of the existing 3 practice facilities. It'll be built on the practice facility at the eastern end that's the closest to TIAA Bank Field. Inside this football performance center, locker rooms, team and positional meeting rooms, training and recovery areas, medical support facilities, a weight room, dining facilities, office space, and draft room. Very functional. It's what you need to conduct an NFL team. There are 2 full-size grass practice fields and a full-size indoor practice field. And the important thing about the indoor practice field, what that allows us to do then is essentially turn over the existing flex field to the City of Jacksonville Parks and Recreation Department for public use for over 300 days a year. So it'll really be up to the city in terms of how they program that, but you could see very easily, maybe Monday nights or volleyball leagues. It's a very flexible space. Maybe Tuesdays are kickball, maybe Wednesdays a small-sided soccer, maybe Thursdays are a football clinic. You know, maybe in this summer, that's where many of the summer camps are held. It's an area that's shaded, it is in very good condition, and will provide, you know, great amenity to those members of the public seeking a recreational outlet. The building will be a hybrid, serving both the core function, which is football performance, while at the same time servicing the community through the inclusion of prominent public art displays, public viewing stands, restrooms, concession areas, retail space, and public meeting space. It'll also be focused on becoming a very, very green and sustainable building, and in some respects create a new model for sustainable design. Purposeful integration of green design, targeting LEED platinum, solar roof with solar panels, permeable ground in the parking area, a lot of windows, a lot of natural daylight, a lot of architectural techniques to cool the building down, windows that open to take advantage of the Florida climate. So being a green building is a real priority. And what we've talked about, what we have been in discussions with the mayor's office and his staff, who have been unbelievably supportive through this entire process, not just as it relates to the Football Performance Center, but continuing to provide us encouragement to move forward with other downtown development plans. And obviously want to thank the mayor and his staff, some of who are represented here today. So in terms of the outline of what we're talking about, we don't have an agreement, but this is an outline of what the discussion is. The existing Jaguars 1993 lease requires that the City of Jacksonville provide all necessary football facilities for the Jaguars at the city's cost. In addition, the city is responsible for all ongoing maintenance, capital improvements, as well as certain operating expenses. For example, the utilities. The city pays for the utilities for the lights in our office. This proposed structure provides, not in addition to a significant partnership with the Jaguars, enhanced economics for the city. The total construction cost of this project is estimated $120 million. Our discussion is to split that 50-50 between the City of Jacksonville and the Jaguars. The City of Jacksonville would own the facility and the property. The Jaguars would manage the construction and would be responsible for any cost overruns. Any cost underruns would be shared 50-50 with the city. We hope that's the case. And perhaps most importantly, going forward, the Jaguars will assume all ongoing maintenance, capital improvement, and operating expense responsibilities that currently is the city's responsibility, and we'll do that under a long-term lease agreement. Yeah, I referenced earlier the big cost of keeping this building in its current state, okay? So I think we're faced with a little bit of a question here. There's a couple ways we can go. We can continue to invest in maintaining, what is an average NFL stadium, at 100% the city cost. It's the city's responsibility per our lease. In those cases where the Jaguars have invested in the stadium, that was Shad's decision to do that. It was not a requirement. Or do we redirect a large portion of the funds, rather than dumping them into this building, to redirect them into starting this stadium of the future and have those become $50 with the Jaguars? What the chart on the right illustrates is what the capital requirements are for the stadium over the next 5 years. And this is not just the Jaguars estimate. This also includes the city's agent in ASM in developing this. And as you can see, over the next 5 years, this building is going to require about $100 million in investment. And if you look at the gold bar, that's the amount of money that is available from a portion of the bed tax that is dedicated to capital investment at the stadium. So you can see a big gap and a big question. And as we look at this, there's no question, if we know that there is a plan, that there is a destination, and we share that commitment with the city of Jacksonville, we'd be able to reduce these investments significantly. Just like at your home, if you knew you were going to replace your driveway someday, you'd live with the cracks in your driveway a little longer. If you knew that your driveway wasn't going to be replaced, you'd probably spend money to fix the cracks in your driveway. And that's, in essence, what we're talking about here. So in terms of a summary of what we've talked about so far, the Shipyards Phase 1 is $321 million. The Football Performance Center is $121 million. We're talking about $441 million in development. As I mentioned, we've laid out the parameters of the financial bid and ask on the Football Performance Center. We have not done that on Shipyards because we're in the midst of discussions with DIA. And in fact, I think the first time that a term sheet was actually offered to DIA was the middle of this month. So anything that's being reported that predates what happened on before May 16th of 2021 is old news, and I wouldn't spend too much time focusing on it. The good news about the project at this point, we're looking at an immediate impact, construction jobs, 7,500, permanent jobs created in excess of 1,500 jobs. We're targeting to have the Football Performance Center complete in advance of the 2023 season, so the summer of 2023. And the Four Seasons would hopefully open its door during the first or second quarter of 2025. So thank you very much. We're excited about the ambition of these projects, and I'd like to turn it back over to Shad.
Thank you, Mark. My goal for downtown Jacksonville is to be the envy of cities in the U.S. and elsewhere and amaze ourselves in the process. We can reach that goal. In fact, we must. We must expect better from downtown, whether we're arriving on a weekday morning or leaving the stadium after a game or event. We have to imagine what's possible when we schedule a business conference or a weekend getaway, and then have the confidence and the imagination that those expectations are going to be met or exceeded. We must have a downtown with all of this and more, and we must have something to tie it all together and one day be sure that it's going to happen. So that's why I love this first Downtown Jacksonville initiative, and that's why I'm privileged to make the formal introduction this morning. First Downtown Jacksonville is a brand, a movement, a community, and a call to action all in one. It's where we go to get content, news, invitation, and information on how we can all be a part of it. And we need all of you to be a part of it. So the Jaguars are proud to lead first downtown Jacksonville. And if we want to really blow past our potential, all of us need to own it. With that, who better to speak to the importance of owning the moment we're in and see the downtown Jacksonville emerge as a winner than the head coach of your Jacksonville Jaguars, Urban Meyer.
Shad, Mark, our city council members, Mayor Curry and Michael Mayo, and the support of Baptist. Thank you for being here, and thanks, Shad, thanks for having us. You know, I had a team meeting about an hour ago as we get ready for, I believe it's our third week of prep for the season, officially called OTAs, but I told them that this is a transformational time for 904, Duval, Jacksonville, and the Jaguars. This is something that the vision that I have along with our owner, Shad, is that we'll look back someday and say this is the time that it happened. You know, when I first moved here, I was looking at a condo across the river for Shelley and I to live, and I was amazed. First of all, I know Jacksonville very well from my time in Gainesville and just spent a lot of time here recruiting. And I was amazed when we were looking at whatever floor it was, and I looked over at the undeveloped, one of the most beautiful property lines that you can have ever imagined in Jacksonville here, and the development I remember talking to Shad about, and that's when he shared the vision of 4 seasons, of an orthopedic center. And then we also shared the vision of the future of the Jaguars. I refuse to believe that this cannot become a destination place. I remember sitting at home making a decision whether to join the Jaguars back whenever that was, and thinking that, you know, first of all, we have an incredible owner. The more research I've done on Shad, he's a visionary. He's an inspiration to me. He's his purest intent is to not only win games, but win games for Jacksonville, win for 904, and make this a destination place. I share that same vision. My focus is all on the players, and that's how do we create the history that I have, and I've always believed in pushing, whether it be support staff, yourself, your players, pushing them to the point of greatness, but also treating them like the best of the best. You're going to hear that quite often around Jacksonville Jaguars. Is it called the culture of excellence? If it's not the very best, it's a simple question, why not? Let's make it the best. And that's our intent with the football training facility. And with much is given, much is expected, obviously. My responsibility and our responsibility are to put something, we say own it. We're going to own what's on that field. And we're going to ask in return that, once again, I refuse to believe. I've coached in that stadium. I believe it was 6 times. I hear that stadium. I still have dreams of that stadium and that Florida-Georgia game. And I refuse to believe that can't be one of the most difficult environments in the NFL. I refuse to believe that. For someone to say that can't happen, we'll fight you on that. That can't happen. Now the team has to do their part. So the training center was something that I believe a professional athlete should not have to go to Phoenix, Arizona, Dallas, Texas, and train and pay a significant amount of money to, in my opinion, at times get subpar training. I believe if we create the best environment in the National Football League, which is our intent, my vision, our dream is to have our players live and be part of this community, to train here, be part of Jacksonville. Are you kidding me? This is as beautiful place as there is in America. Fifth Beach, in case you don't know that, there's great beaches 15 minutes from here. And I think there's no state tax, if I remember right. There's a lot of great advantages to living here. And then if we give them the best facility and best training, I see this as a destination place for football players. So I appreciate Shad, and I'll just tell you that when I first had the conversation with our owner, there's a lot of reasons why I made a decision to come back and back into coaching, and number one was our owner, without question. Without Shad Khan and the vision that he shares with myself and the city of Jacksonville and the purest intent to make this a destination place, we share that. But also an opportunity to go win and be make a change in this great city. How do you make a great change? There's many, many ways. Our way is to put a football team we all can be proud of. We can all cheer and celebrate a great victory together as a city. And that's our goal, that's our intent. So thanks for having me today. We got to get to work. I got practice here in a little bit, and I think it's media day today, is it? Oh, great. So I get to see you guys out there. So great to have you, great to be with you today. We'll see you out there in the field. Have a great day.